Before we get into today's Cowboys Report, give me your one-word reaction to the Cowboys season so far. Lots of different routes you can go, so let me know in the comments of today's show. Some Cowboys-adjacent news, and I wish I had seen this when the news actually broke Monday night, but only the Jets tweeted it out, and I wasn't paying attention to what the Jets were tweeting that day. The Niners have claimed Israel Abanikanda off of waivers from the Jets, a player I very much wanted. The Niners, I believe, are actually behind the Dallas Cowboys in the waiver order, with them losing both Christian McCaffrey and Jordan Mason. Of course, the Niners put in a claim for that. I had a top 100 grade on coming out of Pitt. Offers the juice I think you need. I think he could have been your number 2 running back by the end of the season. Cowboys don't even bother putting in a claim. Yes, I am disappointed. No, it probably doesn't mean that much in the long run. And yes, I would not be surprised if Izzy ends up being pretty good for the 49ers down the stretch this season. Some Cowboys-focused stuff here. Some bad DeMarcus Lawrence injury news here. Turns out Dallas likely won't end up having Tank Lawrence back after all against the Bengals. Stephen Jones saying on Monday about Tank, it's probably a long shot to play against the Bengals. I certainly expect to see him sooner rather than later. This came on the heels of Jerry Jones saying that Tank was more than likely to return against the Cincinnati Bengals. So you got conflicting Jones boys comments, and I'm going to trust Steven on this one. A, it's the more recent one, so it's in theory the better updated. Also, unfortunately, good old Dr. Jerry can get ahead of himself sometimes and be more optimistic than maybe he should be about various player injuries. So it is disappointing that you're not going to have Tank for at least one more week. You could use him against the Bengals. You've got a chance to win that game if your defense plays some great football, which they've played top 10-esque football, fringe top 10-esque football, I should say, over the past month or so. Maybe he's back in time for the Panthers game, but if you lose some games, you start to wonder, okay, when are they actually going to bring back Tank Lawrence? Hopefully at minimum, and we'll know more on this later on in the week, but hopefully at minimum you're able to get back Marshawn Kneeland. He did not play last week because of the injury, so we'll keep an eye on that front and how things look for the Cowboys' defensive line. My next hope here is, hey, you are able to get Marshawn Kneeland back this week, then Tank Lawrence comes back next week, and then you've got yourself your full amount of pass rushers. And it's actually a halfway decent unit if everyone's healthy and playing the way we think and know that they can play. So predictions. Will Tank Lawrence play against the Panthers? It's the pinned comment on today's show. So if the ad comes here on YouTube, take advantage of it. Head down there, type in Y for yes, N for no. Let's talk Zack Martin. And look, the reality is I think we are near the end of the line for Zack Martin, which is super unfortunate. And the question has been asked, and even asked to Jerry Jones, hey, do you keep playing Zack Martin or do you go with the young guys? Brock Hoffman's looked pretty solid the past 2 weeks. Competition question marks to an extent allowed there. But, like, the Bengals have a good front, by the way. Here's what Jerry Jones said. I'm sure the minute we get Zack Martin available to play, he'll be out there. I expect him back out there, called Martin impact player. And in general, this is not an easy conversation to have. We're talking about a Hall of Fame football player. I should argue an unbelievable first ballot Hall of Famer as an offensive guard. One of, if not the best guards to ever play the game, but he's not the same player anymore. And there are legitimate arguments you can make. A, long-term, you're better off seeing if Brock Hoffman or even TJ Bass can be your right guard answer for you. Or if you're better off right now not even playing Zack Martin. O-line's been better with Martin out. I think that could just be a general growth, not the best fronts you've played, better game planning, etc. But those are arguments that you can at least make. So how do you handle that going forward? It's delicate is maybe the proper term there. We'll break it down more in depth, the players involved here in just a second. But today's show is made possible by Turtle Beach. Whether it's for the gamer in your life or you want to relive the holiday marathons, gaming sessions this upcoming holiday season, Turtle Beach has the cheat code for the best gift of the year. For a limited time only, you guys get 10% off your order when you use promo code CHAT over at turtlebeach.com/chat. That is on the Turtle Beach Gen 3 Stealth 700 headset and all of their elite gaming products. My headset I'm wearing today is from Turtle Beach. Was a gift from my wife because she saw my old one was getting a little bit banged up, so that's an easy birthday holiday gift for me. She does not know anything about gaming. She has tried. It has not gone very well. It's objectively funny. But even she knows that Turtle Beach is the best when it comes to your gaming experience. Get the ultimate immersive gaming experience with Turtle Beach today. Again, for a limited time only, head to turtlebeach.com/chat and use promo code chat for 10% off your entire order. That's 10% off your entire order at turtlebeach.com with promo code chat. That's turtlebeach.com/chat. Don't delay. Get the perfect gift now, and happy holidays from Turtle Beach. Link will be in the comment section and the description of today's show. Let's take a look here at what Zack Martin has been this season. Now, he's been banged up, and I do think the injuries are a factor in why he hasn't looked like Hall of Fame Zack Martin, elite Zack Martin. There's also some credence to, once you mention and talk about retirement, it might just be time to retire. You might have kind of have to accept the reality you're staring down there at that point. 5 sacks last year is a lot for Zack Martin. He's only played 638 snaps. The pressures have gone up. The run blocking down. Small sample size for Brock Hoffman, but he's been good. Hasn't gotten beat very much in pass protection. Run blocking grade is better. TJ Bass has shown some promise. Now, his pass protection has not been nearly as good, by the way. The run blocking is a little bit lower as well. Or is actually higher, excuse me. What you're trying to juggle here is how do you send out Zack Martin the right way? I know that there's bigger things about seeing what the young guys can do. They at least played some this year. There also is some credibility to, hey, when you've got a legend mid-season, probably have to handle the legend properly. I think back to the Eli Manning, Geno Smith disaster in New York. Head coach probably wasn't wrong to say Geno is worth giving a look to, but they didn't handle it properly. You have to handle it properly, and that might end up being, Zach's Hall of Famer. He gets to keep playing this season, even if short term, long term, you'd rather have the 4 or 5 games, whatever ends up being, of the young guys playing. So with all that in mind, pick one to start. ZM for Zack Martin, TB for TJ Bass, BH for Brock Hoffman. Let me know in the comment section of today's show. One more topic. How about re-signing Brandin Cooks? This idea floated by Blog and the Boys. A bit surprised, frankly, to see his name as one of the top 2 guys the Cowboys should re-sign. Oso Odighizuwa was also on that list. Now, I'm not going to spend much time on him. We spent time on him lately. He's talking about the likely contract he's going to receive, the better play he's had of late. We haven't really talked about Brandin Cooks since his injury, outside of injury updates here. And I would argue his status is probably even a little bit more tricky to figure out and balance and identify. So we'll spend some time on Brandin Cooks here in a second. If you want the Oso Odighizuwa stuff, you've watched it because you're subscribed. Right? We will be live again on Thursday, live again on Monday Night Football as well for the Cowboys against the Bengals. Don't miss out. Hit that sub button at youtube.com/CowboysTV. Cooks has 12 catches, 170 yards, 2 TDs this year. It's not particularly great, if we're being honest there. It's not. There have been some high leverage moments. The touchdown against the Browns in week 1. The TD this past week against the Giants. The third down conversion to ice the game against the Giants. He doesn't look like he has the top-end same athletic ability, though. Injuries probably a factor in that, frankly. Now, Spotrac, as Blogging the Boys points out, projects a 1-year, $5.2 million deal for Cooks, which I think is relatively fair. I don't think that's overly expensive, not too bad either. I think that is a reasonable expectation for what Cooks could demand. But as it specifically relates to the Cowboys, I want to know what their plan is at wide receiver beyond CeeDee Lamb. CeeDee Lamb is going to be your number 1 wide receiver. Who is going to be your number 2? I think there's 4 contenders here. I don't really think it should be Brandin Cooks. So is Jalen Tolbert going to be my number 2? I kind of think he's more of a number 3. Like, I don't see him. They're different play styles, different body types. I think the overall impact, I don't think it's that different between Tolbert and Cooks. And frankly, especially with the injuries, I might argue Tolbert's been better this year. Now, Cooks can still occasionally get open, but I think that's going to continue to decline. So how does that all play out? Jonathan Inga, you traded a 4th-round pick for him. You got to play him, right? Or you want to play him, otherwise you're submitting you burned a 4th-round pick for no reason again. That's multiple receivers I have. And I want to get Kevontae Turpin involved. I want to do some gadget stuff with him, which is a little tough to do sometimes with Cooks because they're both so small, especially Turpin. That's 5 receivers on this team. And my concern overall with the roster construction I have at the position is I have a clear-cut number 1. I don't have a number 2. I'm not sure I have a true top-end number 3. And I've got a great group of mid to low 3s and 4s and 5s, and that isn't what I want. So my concern is that like Cooks is still worthy of being on an NFL roster, but I would almost rather spend that money or force myself to invest in a bigger way at the wide receiver spot and not kind of cap my ceiling at, okay, I got a 1 and 3.5 threes. It doesn't really move the needle the way I want it to at the wide receiver spot. So it's tricky. So what would you do? S for side, and you want to bring back Brandin Cooks. P for pass.